And when it comes to all the vaccine stuff, this is something I'm glad you brought me on, because nobody wants to report this. In 2018, Bill Gates and Donald Trump had a meeting, and everybody thinks we're fighting Soros and Bill Gates. And Bill Gates said in that meeting that Trump offered him a White House position, and he told Trump about a universal flu vaccine plan. A year later, after Bill Gates said that to the press, before COVID, Trump passed through, it was called some sort of executive order for rebuilding influenza vaccines. And it had the terminology task force. It brought together 12 branches of government. I mean, it seems like to me that Trump is working with Bill Gates, and Trump took Bill Gates's like suggestions to him and pushed it through executive order. So my argument is not the DeSimp or the DeSantis paid influencer that's going to like drool at the mouth, defending everything he does hypocritically, the same way, I might add, that Trump influencers do the same thing. They have no, thoughts of their own. They just kind of say what he says. I'm not here to say it's this versus this. I think it's very close, but I just think that if DeSantis gets in, people will challenge him. Me and you will be united to say that he shouldn't hire that person. But if Trump gets in, if he hires that person, there's going to be people that say, oh, Trump's hiring the enemy because it's a 3D chess plan. Trump employs the swamp because he has a time machine, or, Trump. It's like a big excuse factory. Now this is the party of no accountability. We're the victim all the time. We're not responsible for anything that happened in 2020. Our whole party sold us out to socialism, communism, and vaccine scams, but it's not Donald Trump's fault because of November. We can't even take accountability in our party. So of all those things, I think that it's healthy that people disagree, and Trump has his base under some sort of mind control spell where they can't think critically, have their own opinions, and push back against him. And I think that's dangerous for a movement when the leader is faker than everybody in it, but nobody wants to talk about it.
Because I might push back on that a little bit, because I do think that Trump is somebody that does have good intentions. I don't think he's like this evil mastermind. If he has Bill Gates in there, I think that he in his mind thinks that he's doing something positive. And would he do it now? I don't know. But when it comes down to the whole Trump doesn't listen or his base supports everything he does, Trump, even when it came to the vaccine, he was booed relentlessly at rallies. And then he started to change his tune on it, stopped touting it as an accomplishment nearly as much, if at all, and then started talking about how he's anti-mandate and we have our freedoms and we should stand with the trucker protests in Canada. I think that was the last time that he was booed at it. He changed and he shifted the conversation. So I do think that there is a lot of pushback from the base, even when it comes to him floating the deal where it was the wall with amnesty, which I think that was mainly a bluff. And he told people in Congress to vote against it. His base pushed back on him about it, and then he changed his tune. So I do think that Trump does have a big ego, and I think that that could be a good thing and maybe at times a bad thing. But when it comes down to it, he's not going to grovel at his feet and say, oh, look, I made a mistake. I'm going to do everything differently next time. But he has shifted his tune. He has attacked people like McConnell's wife. And he definitely has changed his mind and tune on several things and stopped promoting things that are going to hurt him electorally. So, I mean, when it comes down to that, I don't think that he's somebody that doesn't learn from his mistakes or he's too stubborn. I mean, he's stubborn, but he just will quietly just shift the conversation instead of groveling at the feet of his base and saying, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Can I use 2 points to kind of point out how I see that? I respect what you're saying. Appreciate your energy too. You seem like a chill guy, even though I disagree with some stuff you say. I'm I like this guy. I know he means well. I could tell. I have good intuition like that. No problem. Trump, I found out because I wasn't really paying attention that much. I was defending him for 3 years against Russia collusion. He's racist. I got, for those who don't know, I've gotten hundreds of millions of views defending Trump, making people like him. I'm not this Trump hater. I'm not Joe Walsh. I'm not crying on MSNBC, fake being a Democrat, Republican. That's not my style. But in general, I found out just through researching, he was bashing Chris Christie in 2016, right? Calling him fat or whatever. He's a slob. He's too corrupt. And then when he got in, he said that Chris Christie was advising him, and that's why he picked Christopher Wray.
But I put somebody in that the other side, everybody agreed to. You know who recommended him to me? Chris Christie. Okay, he recommended him. And that's okay. I don't mind that. I've taken Chris Christie's recommendations before.
So this is just my take as a spectator. I kind of see Trump like a WWE character where for his base, he'll be like, he's a clown. I've learned my lesson. But then 3 years later, that's who will choose the FBI director. So I guess the evidence to me is that he's kind of just putting on a show for his base, when in reality, he never really stands up to these people. And with the Bill Gates thing, I think it's a good example where I think you're right that they did boo Trump, and that was awesome at a rally. Shout out to those people.
I was at one of them booing him, by the way. I think it was the last time in Conroe last year, Texas.
But you were saying, when you're like, maybe he got fooled by Bill Gates and he meant well and he did it. I wouldn't say that if it were DeSantis. I wouldn't be like, maybe DeSantis pushed Bill Gates's vaccine agenda through executive order because he made a mistake. That's the type of spell I'm saying that Trump has on people, where I understand, like, say that's true, and Trump is so foolish and so naive and such a weak leader that he allows Bill Gates to dog walk him and do what he wants to do. That's not good leadership. That's weak leadership, and that's foolish leadership. So, I look at all of these accounts that make excuses for him, and I think to myself, you wouldn't even do that. So it's like, it's become a party of people that know better making excuses for a guy that doesn't know better. Like, I don't think you would think the same thing if DeSantis did it. I don't think you would say, maybe DeSantis pushed Bill Gates' agenda because he just got fooled. You would never give him that type of compassion and grace. So
no, I wouldn't. And I do think there is a double standard that does exist, and I do think that it is warranted to a certain extent, because Trump is somebody who's not entirely from the political system.
Let me know in the comments what you think. Now that I've been able to prove that he admits that he has double standards for Trump and DeSantis, and the base has double standards, do you agree with him that double standards are okay because Trump isn't from the political system, even though he pretty much is part of the political system now that he was president for 4 years? Or do you agree with me that this is why the establishment is able to dog walk Republicans, because they have no convictions and stances as long as one guy does it, but they'd have a problem if another guy does it? I see that as hypocrisy, double standards, and the exact way that Republicans are going to keep getting Charlie Brown with the football. Other people see it as loyalty or righteous double standards. Where do you stand? God bless you guys. Thanks for listening.